Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this one's awesome. It's with Michelle Wallace from Gatlins Barbecue in Houston, Texas. I've been wanting to talk to Michelle for a while because I've watched her progress and I've seen what they're doing at Gatlins, and I've wondered kind of how she came to work at Gatlins. And then when I reached out recently, turns out she's going to be on Barbecue Brawl on the Food Network, which is airing on Mondays at 8 Central. But if you have Discovery Plus, which I do for a number of other reasons, you could watch it the day of. If you get up on Monday morning and want to watch it, you could watch it, or any day of the week. It's actually a really good app because there's a lot of barbecue joints featured on tons of different shows. And I perhaps have a list coming out someday for that. But Michelle is just a great person. She's driven, she's creative, she's smiling the entire interview. Her enthusiasm is infectious, and I even mentioned that at the end of the interview. And we have a time constraint for the interview. It's about a half an hour. So there's going to be a part two eventually for this. I wanted to get a little bit of her journey so you guys can learn where she came from, her background, how she connected and started working for Gatlins, and then how the menu evolved and changed as she and Greg fine-tuned the menu. It's just a place that's been on my list forever, and they now have breakfast. It's been a couple years, but they have breakfast. So they're open Monday through Saturday. So they're a Monday option. If you fly into Houston, they're a Monday option. They're open 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. From 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., I think, is their breakfast. And their breakfast just sounds spectacular. She makes the biscuits every day. So there's tons of stuff on biscuits like brisket and pork belly. And then there's huevos rancheros, which is her favorite dish, her favorite breakfast dish. And then they have breakfast tacos. They have tons of different breakfast options. And then they have lots of creative food. They have the Central Texas style menu, but then they have a ton of creative food. So it's definitely a place you want to visit. You definitely want to watch Michelle on the Food Network because one episode is aired, and I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but she's still on the show. I'll give you that much. And it's a really, it's a fun show. And there's a lot of people from the barbecue world that I know that are on that, and some other people from Houston. She also has, her Instagram is Between the Slices, at Between the Slices. So she has a sandwich concept, and she'll be popping up soon with that, which will eventually maybe become a brick and mortar. But you can follow along with her social media and see that because she wants to. And it's not just going to be like this brisket on a sandwich. She essentially said it's sky's the limit for what's going to be between the slices. So keep follow her for that, so that way you can see what she's doing. She also talks about her time in China. She spent a month in China and how it correlates to barbecue and African American cuisine. It's fascinating stuff. We packed a lot in to a half an hour, and we didn't talk super quickly, so it was really great. So I can't thank Michelle enough for taking the time. I wish her the most success for the show as well as for the rest of her creative endeavors. If you're enjoying these, subscribe, that way you don't miss out. I put a couple of these out per week. Always amazing people like Michelle. But at the end, stay safe and visit your local barbecue joint. Good afternoon, Michelle. It's so good to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I've wanted to talk to you for a while, and I've watched you from afar at Gatlins, and I really love what Gatlins is putting out and how they've grown. And I wanted to, now that you're to be on Barbecue Brawl, I want to give viewers and listeners a chance to get to know you just a little bit better before the show comes out, and also so they visit Gatlins. So you're from the Midwest, right? Is that?
I am, yes, born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. Grew up there, graduated high school, and moved right to Houston.
Right. Was there a specific? Oh, that's for school.
Yeah, for school. So
Okay.
I actually graduated from Texas Southern University.
Oh, nice. Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
But then, did you ever? This is a quick aside. Did you ever have St. Louis style barbecue at all? Were you eating barbecue? I know you talk about it, your grandmother's cooking.
Oh, absolutely. We grew up what I now know as grilling versus smoking meats. But we did a lot of high heat grilling. There are a lot of old school barbecue joints in St. Louis. My dad was a cop. And so he would bring home barbecue from all over the city. So yeah, I definitely grew up eating St. Louis style barbecue.
Yeah, he probably knew the best places to go. Yeah, it seems like the cops, like my parents, like when I was a baby, their friend was a sheriff, and he'd bring them like the coolest like Mexican food and barbecue.
Something about cops and food, they get all the best food, man.
Well, if they're driving around a lot, they see it probably like really cool locations. So when you came to Houston, your path, and I want people to be clear, and there's a lot of people with a non-food path. Your path wasn't food at all, right?
No, not at all. I actually came to Houston. I played softball in college, so I was a college athlete. Within that realm, I was always the person who cooked, and I just gravitated toward cooking, and it was very relaxing to me at the time. And as time, went on, I found it to be super interesting. And so I would play around with flavors and technique, and I essentially just started teaching myself. and then I would create these dishes that my friends and family would love, and then they started throwing money at me to make different things,
Oh,
and
really?
that's really how I kind of fell into food. At the time, this is several years past college, but at the time, my cousin was playing for the Texans, and
Well, that's
I
kind of
would
cool.
make his lunch, and he would take it to the stadium, and so then I started cooking for a bunch of football players.
Because I remember somewhere I had heard DeAndre Hopkins, right? Wasn't
Yeah, I cooked for DeAndre and his mom several times. Yeah.
but your path, you were essentially you had a desk job, right? And it was just because there's people that write me and say, Kevin, I've listened to your show and I have a desk job in Australia and I hate it. And
Yeah.
I'm just going crazy. So you were, you're not a desk job type
Yeah.
person, right?
So throughout my college years and just beyond, I waited tables and bartended and was a greeter. But then when I graduated school, my degree's in healthcare administration. I went to work in the healthcare industry. And we were doing managed care contracts with health providers. Yeah, I was sitting behind a desk, and you know what's so funny is my boss, I would pace. I would be on the phone and I would pace at my desk because I hated sitting down. I would wait tables, like I was so used to walking around and talking to people, and I would pace back and forth at my desk, and he thought it was the oddest thing, and I was like, I just can't sit down for 8 hours a day. It's crazy.
So that's just not
But
your
yeah, I
nature.
hated it. I did not like it. It didn't fit my personality. I like talking to people. I like talking food. So,
But
I got out.
healthcare is sort of it's hospitality. You're helping people,
Yeah.
like it's essentially, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You definitely have to have a really amazing level of service, because you're treating and talking with people who are in need.
Yeah.
You definitely have to have some compassion, but it's definitely different from being in a restaurant.
Yeah. Well, how did you go? Did you go from like catering to working at Houston's, or like with corporate Houston's?
So my server job was at the Houston's
was it?
Here in Houston. Yes, sir. And so I went from a greeter to waiting tables to bartending. I went into management at that point. Yeah, I ran the gamut. I end up working and learning a lot of kitchen stuff. At the time, my GM is still one of my favorite people in this industry, but he was actually one of the first people to encourage me to quit my desk job. And it's like, man, Michelle, I think you'll be great in this industry. He was like, I'll teach you. He taught me P&L when he wasn't supposed to.
Hey, that's important information.
He showed me a bunch of just managerial stuff and functions. And so, he definitely put me in a position to, have a leg up on a lot of chefs. A lot of chefs are just confined to the kitchen, And
that's why a lot of restaurants fail or have trouble, is because there's the business side there's a lot to the business side.
A lot to it. Yeah, absolutely. And then still in dealing with customers, a lot of people can feel like they can put amazing food on a plate and that's it. But gone are those days, right? Like everybody wants to talk to the chef. So you got to be able to be personable, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've often thought about like how much, because there's so much, there's so many people filming, taking photos, everything at this presentation, but then also like the surly chef, that doesn't work anymore. Maybe it works as like a shtick, but I don't think it's
right.
Yeah.
You can't be, what is it, like on Seinfeld, the soup Nazi. You can't.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, no, you can't. And and there was a time, and it made sense, and the chef would never come out, or you'd be a very special person to. And now there's a lot of options and stuff, but so then how did your path go towards barbecue then? And I hate to like rush your life, but we only have half an hour, so I want to make sure.
No, I don't. Yeah. So after I finished culinary school and worked at Houston's, I had a bunch of line cook jobs. I went to work for this catering company. At that, I was just a staff chef there. And randomly, a few years down the line, I met Greg Gatlin at a party.
Oh, really?
And my sister was invited to her friend's birthday party. The friend whose birthday it was, her husband is Greg's lawyer. And so when I got there, my sister knew everybody, and I'm like talking to her, and this is my twin sister. And I'm like, hey, isn't that barbecue dude? Like, what's his name? Like, we trying to figure out his name. Mind you, everybody's having a cocktail, so we're having a good time. And I was like, and so we went up to him. My sister was a little inebriated, but she went up to him and was like, hey, you have to know my sister. She's an amazing chef. Like, we know who you are. Like, we love your barbecue. And so we kind of struck up a conversation. He invited me to come by the restaurant. I think I cooked something, and he loved it. And then we just kind of got to talking about what's next and what I was wanting to do at the time. And he was like, man, have you ever thought about, you know, basically he was like, I want you to think about coming to work here. There are a lot of, you know, processes and procedures as a chef that, you know, they kind of needed fine tuning with. And so I was able to come in and just insert my expertise. And at the time, the guy who was working the pit, he ended up leaving. And so I'm like, you know, I want to learn. And so everybody was like, you know, he kept trying to just stick me with the side, you know? And so I was like, no, like I can do this. Like it's, you know, I'm not afraid. Mind you, the previous job that I worked at, I was a grillman. I had to fight my way to get there, but I would, you know, was a wood.
That's a big station.
Yeah, it's a big station. And so I worked my way to work the grill, and I'm like, you know, I can get in there. I know I got on this makeup. I'm wearing this dress, but I can do it. And so he eventually would give me little tasks, and then I was like, can you, like, I got it. And so he just like, all right, you say you got it, and I've been cooking ever since.
That's so, and that I didn't know that part of the story. And also too, because the Gatlin, their family, it was a family run business. And then I'm sure, do a lot of people think that you were part of the family or the?
All the time. All the time.
Because, what was that like jumping into the family like that? Because you're part of the family.
It was, well, you have to earn their trust because they're existing before I got there, right? And they're successful before I got there. And so it's just like, you know, Miss Mary is just looking like, can she really do it? You know, and so you're like, okay, so it's a fine line to respect what's already been built, right, in their history, and being true to the barbecue that they're you know, used to serving. But then how do I still impart my creativity into all of that? And so I'm always and forever will be grateful for Greg because he taught me how. Then he also allowed me to be creative with a lot of things as well. So.
And that takes a lot. This takes a certain type of person to be able to do that too, from Greg's side, because a lot of people can't do that. That's to relinquish certain things until like to let you flourish. That's a testament to him too. That's interesting. No, I've always wondered how that works, and this is good for someone that's watching that might end up in a restaurant that's been around forever. Like that's you know, it's a little intimidating, but also you don't seem like you intimidate very easily. So.
No, I mean, you just have to be confident in what you do. I also am very comfortable with messing up. Like, can I cuss on here? I'm like, I'm comfortable with fucking up. And it's like, it's in the mess ups is where you learn. And I'm more interested in learning. So if I have to mess up to get there, then I'm now going to be the best at this because I've already messed up and I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah, so, that's a weird lesson to learn in life, that your failures are really what make you as a person and really teach you those lessons. But it's not easy. And like a lot of those times people are scared to fail. And that's
not me. I done burnt up all several briskets.
Several, probably more than several.
But I done burnt up more rack of ribs than I care to say. But I got it.
But that's how you learn. That's and then you learn, and then you learn feel, and it becomes comfortable. And did you bring in? Because I know that you have a Southern background in your cuisine, like that in your repertoire. Did you bring that into Gatlins too? Because Gatlins, I don't think had it as heavy, right?
They actually had some of that already kind of implemented. I was able to kind of come in and supplement some things and impart my creativity with them. I also, in my culinary studies, I actually studied in China. So there are a lot of times where you'll see some Asian influence come in, and that's just from my studies in China.
Yeah, because I noticed that every so often it comes across that there are some little Asian flavors. Oh, that's, and then what, you spent a month or so there? For
about a month there. It was like 3.5 weeks. Yeah.
How was that?
So we 3 cities. We went to Beijing, Xi'an, and Shanghai. We finished up in Shanghai, and it was an experience like no other. There's so many similarities, like between, you know, if you think Black and Southern and soul food. And they have these meals that are so soulful that is traditional for them, which is how soul food is for us and African Americans in this country, right? So the similarities and their approach to food it just hit home with me. Like I love Asian cuisine and how deep it is for them in culture as well as food, you know?
Yeah, no, and that's Yeah, you're ticking on things that when I've interviewed people that have brought their heritage, their Asian heritage into their food,
Hmm.
it's rich with history and rich with like
Yeah.
certain specific spices that have carried it. That's so interesting. I didn't think about it. I didn't think
Yeah,
about the
I mean,
similarity at all.
it definitely resonated with me while I was there. I mean, barbecue in itself, where it came from and how it
Oh yeah.
exists within the Black culture. You know, a lot of times it's celebratory things, and in China there were a lot of meals that were celebratory, right? And so, you know, we're coming up on Juneteenth, and what does barbecue mean specifically to that particular holiday?
Hmm.
Like it's just so many similarities. And then working with fire and wood and smoke, you can legit go anywhere across the world and they will have
Hmm.
something that's relatable using fire, wood, smoke in their cuisine. So that's why, you know, so I never thought I would end up in barbecue, but it's been one of the coolest experiences.
Yeah, that because I was going to ask, one of my questions was, what is it like being in the barbecue world? Because when I tell people how interested I am in barbecue, and they think I'm just like into meat or something, or like I'm like
Yeah.
as a carnivore. And it's the people, and it's the culture, and it's the history, and it's also history that I've learned about because I've talked to people like Adrian Miller,
Oh, I
and
love it.
it's yeah, he's amazing. And I've just talked to a lot of people about there's a lot of history that we don't, that has been shoved under the rug,
Yeah.
that needs to be brought back out. But
Yeah.
it's what does barbecue mean to you?
Food is culture, and barbecue specifically is something that is celebratory. It's family. It's you know, fellowship between the people that you're enjoying it with. It's hands on. You get to use your hands, so it's interactive in that way. It's just one of those things where it's built in fun, right? It's built in happiness,
Mhm.
and it reminds you of something. We can go to a barbecue or have a bite of brisket that reminds you of something in the past. Like God, like my grandmother would make this potato salad and it tastes like this when I have this
Yeah.
particular smoked meat. Like it just tie into so many things. And if food to me can be either one of two things or three things. It reminds you of something, and so you connect that way.
Hmm.
It's a new experience, so you're like blown away by a new particular experience, or it just stinks. It's terrible, and you don't want to eat it, right?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
first two is the goal, right? So when we're serving these plates and we're having these smoked meats, I want you to think of a memory, or I hope it takes you back to something that you can say, man, my grandfather would tell me stories around the pit,
Hmm.
and this particular, you know, this smoked chicken wing might bring something back. And that's like the ultimate, like that gives me
Hmm.
goosebumps when I have a customer that tell me that, or you know, I'm able to get that out of anybody who enjoys my food. So
Yeah, and it could go down generations and generations.
yeah,
The longer that you work there, or if you do something on your own, it's just
yeah,
it's so fascinating. And I want to get to how barbecue brawl came about. But I want to give people, what are the days of the week that Gatlin is open, and like just a little bit more information about Gatlin so I don't forget
yeah.
to.
Gathers Barbecue is open 6 days a week. We are closed on Sundays. We do catering. We do, you know, to-go orders. One of our newest projects have been serving breakfast. I don't know if you've seen
I
that
saw that.
lately,
Yeah,
but we actually started like the February before the pandemic,
good timing. Just like
which ended up, you know, to be honest with you, which ended up being a great move. Little did we know, like now people are confined to their homes. And we're situated right in an amazing neighborhood here in Houston called Garden Oaks Forest. And so it was cool for those people to come in and get breakfast and then come in and get lunch and dinner, and it
yeah.
be a completely different eating experience, you know, from breakfast to lunch or dinner. So yeah, breakfast is
What does the
golden.
breakfast entail? Is it like a?
Oh, we do. I make biscuits every day, so we do like
Well, there
brisket
you go.
biscuit. We do like brisket biscuit with egg, smoked pork belly biscuit. We
Uh,
have huevos rancheros, which sell. That's like my favorite thing, and you can get that with brisket or pork belly or bacon. We do
oh,
breakfast tacos of all kinds, breakfast sandwiches on a bun or a biscuit. We
that's a
do
big
wings and
deal.
waffles. So
Oh,
we do a little bit of everything.
and that's good too because I had made a list. I could put a link below, but of barbecue places that are open on Monday. Not a lot of places are open on Monday, so
No,
that you're a great option for people
yeah,
if they're
yeah,
listening,
yeah,
because people fly into town, they get in town Sunday, and then they
yeah.
have nowhere to go,
Bring them in.
nowhere to go on Monday. Well, how did how did barbecue brawl come about?
Oh, social media. Like everything happens now through social media. And I think the casting director who's, you know, found me I think they heard research or search the hashtags. I think it's how they
Oh,
kind
that's
of get
cool.
started. And she said she just kind of saw my page and liked some of the things that I was doing. I guess they must have researched Gatlins and kind of went on from there. And I was
And your
like, is
and your
this
name
for
is
real?
between two slices, right? Or between the slices?
Between the
That's
slices,
slices,
yeah.
yes. How did that name come about?
When I met Greg, I was actually getting ready to do a sandwich concept. And
Ah,
so I still want to ultimately do that. That's kind of what my next big project will be. And so between the slices just always kind of stuck because I was headed in that direction before barbecue. So
okay, cool. Because now because I wanted people to know what you're, so they can follow you and they can follow your adventures
yeah,
on the show
so
too.
yeah, so the whole thing with that is just super creative sandwiches, smoke influenced meat or vegetables or not, just really super creative sandwiches. And soon people will be able to start to eat those. So
Oh, really?
that's yeah. I'm definitely working on doing some pop-up events and possibly grow into a brick and mortar that way. So
Oh, okay, cool. So that's something. So then people should follow along on your
oh,
trajectory as well as, and I'll put
absolutely,
Gatlin's information too.
absolutely, yeah.
Ah,
Yep.
that's pretty cool. Will it be called Between the Slices, or is it?
I don't know yet. I don't
I
know if
guess
that's
you can
still just
call it.
going to be social media handles or not, but we'll see.
All right, cool. Well, how was the experience on Barbecue Brawl? Because there's a lot of, and who are the hosts this year?
The host this year, the coaches are,
Coaches, I meant coaches.
yeah, Bobby Clay, who is undefeated and returning, to defend his championship. Jet Tila and Miss Amberell. All three
Ah,
were super awesome. Yes.
yeah, those are all amazing people, and you probably can't mention like what team you're on. You can't mention because that's all, it hasn't come out yet. So you
I
can't.
mean, you have to stay tuned. Monday, May 9th is the premiere.
Okay.
8 o'clock Central Standard Time. Yeah, you just kind of have to watch and see what
To
happens.
be aired out every Monday.
Yep, Mondays on Food Network and Discovery Plus.
Yeah, and then I have Discovery Plus because I'm taking care of my mom, and I have all
Oh, nice.
all the channels, and so because there's a lot, when she's had surgery or something, but there's you could watch the day of a show when a show comes out on like Food Network, so people who are at Discovery Plus, well, they can watch it any day of the week. So Discovery Plus,
Okay.
I don't want to
Yeah,
be like, I'm not selling Discovery Plus, but it is a great app
it's great too. Yeah.
because you could watch it, like say you miss it on Monday, you could
Then
still
you can,
catch it on Tuesday,
yeah,
Thursday, and then
beautiful.
or catch up the week before and stuff. So
Right.
so was it fun?
Oh, it was absolutely fun. I mean, there are the contestants and contenders that were on the show are all amazing. People who exist in this barbecue world, whether it's a restaurant, a food truck, or the circuit, right? And what was most interesting in learning, like from the contenders who work like the barbecue competition circuit,
Uh-huh.
like it's so different from how we
So different.
exist. Yeah, as a restaurant, but it was they're all super talented in their own right. And it made for some great brawling.
Well, and this is your first TV show, right? You probably maybe have been like on the
This is
news,
my
right?
first competition show. Yeah, Gatlins, we were on High on the Hog, so
Oh,
we've
yeah,
done
yeah.
a few things on TV already, but this is my first like competition style show. So yeah,
Ah,
try to think on the fly and what you can create. And yeah, it's a little bit different when you're sitting on a couch watching it versus being in the moment and they're like go and you're like trying to think of what you can create.
and also too, I think when I talked to Blue Smoke Blair a little while
Uh-huh.
ago, she was saying how and she won season one, I think she like that, and
She
she was
won season 2, yeah.
season two. She but she was saying how she didn't realize that the clock was real, like the things, like the time, like everything, there was
Oh
a
god.
different pressure than and then she said it like at first she was like chicken with her head cut off, and it was just a kind of a because it's
Yeah, I mean,
a different
once they
scenario.
go, you gotta go because you only have the time frame that they give you. And so it's like, oh my God, like what do I do? Like where am I going? Like you have to think about 10 different things at one time because you're thinking about what are you gonna cook? What am I cooking with? You have to think about a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, but I think that's the beauty of the competition is because
Yeah.
how do you, hone in your
Mhm.
thoughts and creativity in that time frame and come out excellent. So
And that's like there's you have to think on your toes at the restaurant, and you have to deal
oh
with stuff, or like certain things didn't come in, and so you need to change up what you're doing. So you're
yeah.
used to that kind of stuff. It's just
Oh,
with like 10 cameras around or 6 cameras or
that is the difference.
That is a difference. But also like we had talked about earlier with social media, people, there's a lot of people filming stuff, but they're not like in the back with you.
Right.
That's correct. So with your restaurant, your idea, if your pop-ups, will there be brisket and stuff, or will it be mostly?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty with that is I can get as creative as I want. So if I want to smoke off a brisket and create a sandwich, then I'll definitely do it. If I want to smoke off some duck or whatever, then I can do it. There's not going to be any necessarily rhyme or reason. I just want to put out good food and have some fun with it, and kind of go from there. I've been on my social media giving teasers every now and again, and I'm always creating a sandwich. So yeah, I think people are finding, they're like, when can I eat this product? So I'm gonna get it out there to the people since they're asking for it.
Yeah, you should, and definitely after like a couple of weeks on the Food Network too, there'll be more people that know about you, especially across the country. But they'll be
I hope so.
Yeah, it'll your notoriety will grow a little more at least. And then also, like, what I wanted to ask, what's your favorite thing to get at Gatlins, or what would be the ideal platter or plate or thing to order for you?
Outside of breakfast, because huevos ranchero is like my favorite dish for breakfast, with the pork belly or the brisket. Outside of that, I can eat our smoked chicken all day, every day. Matter of fact, I just brought some chicken home and made some smoked chicken tortilla soup with it. It's phenomenal. But I would get, like, we do a 1, 2, or 3 meat plate. I will always tell people to go for a 3 meat plate and just pick, from what ribs, brisket, of course, you have to get that. And then I would go with either chicken or sausage or something like that. But our turkey is amazing too. I don't know. I usually tell people, especially if it's a group of people, just to order by the pound and then just pick a few meats to get. And unlike a lot of barbecue places, we have like 10, 12 side items that people can choose from. So
yeah, most places like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
all from scratch.
All from scratch. Nice. Most people just have like 3, 4, 5 max. We have like 10. Yeah.
But that's also a lot of things to deal with.
It is, and I mean, but that's where organizing the kitchen comes into play. And then once it's kind of organized, the process just happens. I mean, everybody, like, the kitchen just runs so smoothly now that 10 sides used to sound like a lot, but the production of it is really simple. Yeah.
And then do you have specials every day?
So I've actually been allowed to create a between the slices section. So you can find there, like, I house smoke and grind bologna. So that sandwich is served every day.
That's
we brine. I brine pastrami there, so we brine and smoke our own pastrami. So you'll see that features tomorrow. Well, I won't say tomorrow because we're showing Monday, but we recently are featuring smoked oxtails on the menu.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we have features every now and again. Usually if you watch our social medias, you'll be able to see when we do something special.
So just make sure you follow.
Usually that's just me because I'm bored and I want to throw something interesting out there and see how well it works.
Yeah, well, you have a chef background, so you want to explore that. I think that's important. There's a lot. Some people, they have to stay, and because certain people want certain things, and so they can't really change much. But having a chef background, but this is, I think we're almost out of time. But I know
we're not done yet.
But we could do like I said, we could do maybe a part 2, like in 6 months or whatever. We can talk about how it was, because it'll have all aired, and also just talk more about your path, and then maybe between the slices will be further along, and so we can promote that too.
Kevin, I would love it. So
yeah, but it's been great. You're wonderful. I really appreciate what you do, and I love your enthusiasm and your vitality. It's infectious. And I like I said, I've watched a couple other things like Cost of Goods Told. I watched their podcast recently just to kind of get a refresher about your backstory, and I think you smiled the entire time too. So I appreciate that. And so people want to see your smile and see all the other contestants hopefully smiling or stressed out, they could watch on Monday. It was so nice to meet you. And
thank you. So lovely to meet you too.
Yeah, have a nice rest of your week.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah, definitely.
For part 2.
Definitely, without a doubt. All right, take care. All right, bye.
Bye.